Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points of filmmaking. And Blue Dragon 5, do you know what day it is?
No, I got no idea what day it is.
It may or may not be this day when we're actually recording the podcast, Dragon, but the day that this gets uploaded to the channel is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Woo!
And you know what that means, Dragon.
What does that mean?
We have to talk about the greatest Mother's Day movie of all time, the creme de la creme, Psycho. Oh boy, a different kind of Mother's Day movie, am I right?
Very true.
Okay, so of course, folks, the reason why we're doing Psycho is this year's Mother's Day podcast, because we like to keep with the holidays, Dragon. We tend to do something for every holiday here on the channel.
Well, if we can, if it's feasible. So of course, folks, the reason why we are doing Psycho is because our beloved Bates Motel has gone off the air after 5 beautiful and heartbreaking seasons. Yes, I know. So
I know. So because we talked through all of Bates Motel, we figured let's go back to the film that started it all. Let's do a retrospective podcast on Psycho, which not just inspired Bates Motel, Dragon, but I would say this movie is essentially the Snow White and the Seven Dwarves of the modern day slasher genre. This movie sets so many benchmarks for modern filmmaking. I'm actually kind of excited to talk to you about this movie in this regard, Dragon, because, of course, when we get into the legacy, I think I have a unique perspective on that, being a bigger fan of the horror genre than you. I feel like I can offer my expertise on that a little bit. So we'll get into that when we get into that. But before we get into anything, Dragon, let's talk about our personal experiences with Psycho. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So we covered this a little bit.
Hey, Dragon.
What?
This video may not be in black and white, but I am drinking black and white tea. I just noticed that. I just like, oh, that's kind of a funny coincidence. Howard Hamlin would approve. Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so we covered this a little in Hitchcock, but just to kind of reaffirm, because now we're talking about the actual thing, talking about Psycho. I've had some personal ties with Psycho, because just in general, I've always had, my grandfather and I, we always had really deep personal ties to Universal Studios, namely the one in Florida, but just in general, the movies and everything. Universal's always been kind of like a thing with us. So basically, it's always been 2 things from Universal, now retroactively with Psycho, but you know what I mean? Like, initially it's Paramount, then, of course, over the years, it's super identified with Universal, of course.
Sure.
The point is, Jaws and Psycho have always been kind of the 2 go-tos for Universal in terms of the 2 of us. So, I mentioned this briefly before. My grandfather, he pointed me to Psycho, and he always pointed me to he loves the twist. He loves the twist and kind of on a surface level, he loves just the idea of it's the boy driven mad by his mother, and he's also a true crime fan, so it's kind of melts his interest. He always pointed out to me, I got to watch the movie, and always kind of basically the big twist, of course. So that's the big draw that really gets him excited for the movie, and of course it's well shot. It's kind of in cinema history, big movie fan. We constantly quote movies to each other and stuff. So Psycho's always been kind of like in the framework for us, and just the fly thing at the end. That's the line we always quote from Psycho. Oh yeah, so
it's so creepy, man. It's so ahead of its time, just the idea of it.
And it's something just on the whole, just my feelings on Psycho is really simple. Is I think analyzing Psycho as we do, especially just rewatching Psycho, it's so darn rewatchable. And
oh yeah.
Has seen Psycho. If they haven't seen it, they should see it, because it's the perfect horror film to show anyone. It really is. Like, the day and age, the times we live in now, essentially it's kind of like a PG horror film. Let's face it. It was R at the time, but now it's kind of PG.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying comparatively.
You're right. Comparatively, sure.
Because at the time, again, it's being built up as like an R-rated film. It might have been
at the time, this shit was groundbreaking, Dragon. Yeah.
Well, I want to say, I could be misremembering, but I think RoboCop was one of my first R-rated films. I mean, this one technically is the first R-rated film, because it was under that rating. And again, aside from one really black and white bloody scene, it's it's all what's created in the head that makes it truly kind of R-rated and horrific.
Yeah, and it's not just that this guy is going around killing people. It's just kind of the dread and the mystery that's built up throughout the movie that really hooks you in and reels you in and just, doesn't let go.
It's a horror film that does all the legwork in the mind. That's always something to take away from it. So on the whole, just good memories with Psycho. It's kind of a staple of Universal in my mind.
Dragon, it's funny you mentioned Universal Studios because that's absolutely where I have the most fondness for Psycho as well. Not to brag, Dragon, not to brag, okay? But I've been to Universal Hollywood and I've seen the actual Bates Motel that they filmed on the tram tour. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I do remember, of course, my grandparents, the family business that my grandparents ran was a costume shop mixed with a pet store. I know it's a weird idea, but the point is, being a costume shop, we were kind of entrenched in the Halloween culture, right? Because Halloween was our biggest seller of the year. Like, we'd always prepare for October for the costumes and everything. And my grandpa, he stayed up to date on all the current movies and all the current horror films and whatnot. And he had a whole bunch of posters, Dragon. I actually have them. We actually have a couple down in the garage still. We have a Bela Lugosi Dracula and we have a Frankenstein down in the garage. I should bring them up sometime and put them in the background of a video at some point. But anyways, point being, there was also a poster of Psycho, the classic kind of like the yellow house and, the eye and whatnot. And so I was very intrigued by Psycho. Of course, the one thing you really knew about it was the shower scene. That's kind of like just the public lexicon of like, everyone kind of knows about the shower scene, even if you haven't seen the movie. It took me a little while to actually see the film, Dragon. I remember I got into Hitchcock through Rear Window and Vertigo, Hitchcock's two big Jimmy Stewart movies. And it took me a while to go down to Psycho, mostly, I hate to admit this, but mostly because of the black and white element. I know, I'm terrible. I'm much more fond of black and white nowadays, but actually, this movie is a big reason why I got so into black and white filmmaking, Dragon, because it intrigues me to no end that this was one of the first movies that was made very much post-colorization of film that used black and white in its stylistic intent to really go and add another layer of mood and another layer of atmosphere to the film. And honestly, Dragon, I gotta say, that black and white element to the movie really kind of creeped me out more than anything else when I was watching the film for the first time. Like the black and white of the neon on the Bates Motel as she pulls up in the rain, the shadows, the just all the different lighting and moods. It's just very effective. And essentially what I really respect about this film is just how daring Hitchcock was with it, how he essentially took what really should be like a B-grade kind of like throwaway slasher movie and elevated it to a point of making it high art. And so, yeah, it's a classic. It's probably the best Hitchcock ever made. Like, by all intents and purposes, it probably is his masterpiece, and I love it to death. All right. Okay, so should we get into some backstory, Dragon?
Sure. And if it sounds like I'm just kind of recapping Hitchcock, the 2012 film, that just shows you how good a job they did. So I'm just going by what the backstory
previously on Hitchcock.
Okay, so to boil it down. Still, it's going to be quite the story, but I'm just going to boil it down to the key points here. So it's 1959. Robert Bloch writes a book inspired by the crimes of the famous serial killer Ed Gein. Or to quote Hitchcock, the Anthony Hopkins Hitchcock, it's the boy who dug up his own mother. So right. Again, that's the big kind of draw. It's the big kind of famous kind of headline for Ed Gein, just kind of the boy who dug up his own mother. A lot of buzz around the book, much like, oddly enough, again, the main comparison I go to, again, because my ties to it, but to be quite honest, it's a very similar case. It's Jaws and Psycho had kind of a similar thing. Jaws was a book that was all the rage when it came out, and they kind of wanted to make a movie of it. The only difference is Paramount did not want to make Psycho immediately. It's kind of the only difference, but being a book, and within a year or so, it's then made into a movie. So, Alfred Hitchcock, he finishes, here's where he's at in our stories. Alfred Hitchcock, he finishes North by Northwest. He's kind of the question's kind of floating around: is the master should the master of suspense retire? And Hitchcock, of course, feels that he has at least one really good film left in him, and he has one film left with Paramount. He's got another great movie in him, and he has like one contract with Paramount, so he's figuring, okay, why not just kind of do a little bit of wish fulfillment with the next film with Paramount, and the great movie left in him, of course, is Psycho, based on the book.
Oh yeah.
Now, studio doesn't want Psycho because it gets again reads as a B movie. It reads okay, well, it's just going to be kind of like it's horror slasher.
Grindhouse trash.
Yeah. So this leads Hitch to produce it himself, which of course is a gutsy movie. The old Broadway adage: never put your own money into a show. Kind of a similar notion. It's like never put your own. You producing it means like you don't really have investors. You don't really have like a lot of support around you, which means it's more kind of doomed to fail. It's kind of the old fear with that. So Hitchcock's it's taking on a huge gamble. It's a big gamble on Hitch's part, just going to produce it himself. The production begins, and one of the great elements of Psycho, one of my favorite elements of the making of Psycho, I love this little tight-knit trifecta you have here of Hitchcock, Joe Stefano, and Anthony Perkins. Like these three guys really worked well together. And essentially, they were kind of the directing force of what gives us Psycho, just to take us through it. So Hitchcock, he starts off with Joe Stefano. Joe Stefano is very key in the making of Psycho. He is what got him the job. What got him the job are two very key events. One, he was in therapy talking about his mother a lot. And he kind of brought he brought that up to Hitchcock, and that was one thing that really kind of helped him get the job. But the other thing that really cemented it was that Joe Stefano was really responsible for a lot of our. He was like invaluable to the filmmaking. He was not only was he crafting the adaptation once he was hired and formed a solid bond with Hitchcock, but he was responsible for a lot of these suspenseful qualities and kind of the reveals. Like he's the one who came up with the idea of why don't we kill off? Basically, why don't we get to know Mary a little bit in the beginning, then kill her off? Basically, make it seem like she's the lead of the movie.
Which was just like a total game changer for filmmaking in general. A story had never been done like that.
So basically, the two of them were riffing when they went in there. He kind of mentioned he was in therapy, and he just kind of the two of them just got a riffing, and basically says, "Oh yeah, so here's the plot of the movie." And then Josephine say, "Oh yeah, what if we really hyped her up, and then you kill her off?" And just that at that point, the two were, I assume, the two were having such a good time, just gave him the job right there on the spot. Like, oh god, this guy gets it. We got to have him on here. Mm-hmm. So let's see. So then. So they're going on making the film. Of course, Alma is also very key. She's ghosting and editing the production. She's very strong in the editing process. Of course, it's kind of hard to tell based on Hitchcock. I'm not just factoring all this in from Hitchcock. I'm saying, of course, there's some crossover. Alma is key in the making of it. He's always the supportive kind of backbone to Hitchcock in a way.
Right.
They get a casting. Of course, the two big casting pools would be Anthony Perkins being cast against type as Norman Bates, kind of the boy next door of Hollywood, just being cast as kind of like the boy next door who turns into a murderer.
And it works so beautifully well.
It does, and of course, let's not forget again the Perkins being part of the trifecta here. He develops a bond with Hitchcock. In a way, the way I've always kind of viewed is like Perkins and kind of mentioned this in the Hitchcock thing again. I don't want to retread it too much. Mm-hmm. Perkins and Stefano are kind of, in a way, the proteges of Hitchcock, I thought, at least under this production. Perkins, of course, goes on to direct, and he came up with a lot of the staging and stuff in this movie. Like a lot of the ideas were Perkins at the candy corn, of course. He had again, Perkins does make the movie not only just playing the lead character, but just having the main character, not the one. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Then they cast kind of the big leading actress, because that was the other thing. One day when Stefano was kind of throwing out, okay, what if we kill her off after a certain act? Then Hitchcock got the idea, like, yeah, let's cast like the biggest leading lady in Hollywood. and
it was like Drew Barrymore before Drew Barrymore.
Essentially, so they cast kind of the most someone to build up the reveal of like, okay, you never imagine a million years our gorgeous lead would get killed off. Right. Go for some star power. So they shot the film with a TV crew in black and white, which again they had like the option for color, to make that clear. They had the option for color, but Hitchcock wanted to do it in black and white. Now there is something really funny that happened. Just building to another little tidbit here before almost done. So there's a really funny thing with Alma that happened. So there were another example of Hitchcock and Stefano bonding was that they tested out all sorts of stuff for each other in Hitchcock's office. Like how Janet Leigh was like, after she's killed in the shower scene, how does Norman get her to the car? So they basically, they called someone into the office and they put him on on plastic shower curtain and wrapped him up and stuff. And Alma walks in just looking at this absurdity of Hitchcock and Stefano just wrapping like a crew guy or someone, wrapping someone up just to test out like if they could drag a body across with a shower curtain.
Mm-hmm.
So just fun stuff like that happened. At the same time, the shower scene, of course, being the big center point of the movie. Oddly enough, there's always a rumor that is going around about Saul Bass, the storyboard guy, one of the big storyboard guys behind Psycho, and the guy who's responsible for the main titles. Those cool kind of like
the line titles. Yeah,
the rumor is the story is that Saul Bass claims that he directed the shower scene. He not only did he board the shower scene, that he directed it. I forget if that was coincides with the time Hitchcock got sick or not. But the point is, there was a time where someone else may have directed, and they say it was Saul Bass, and that has been absolutely by everyone involved, especially Joe Stefano, say that's absolutely not true. Only Hitchcock directed, not true. So. And then, of course, the famous thing about the making of Psycho, and this is like the really awesome thing Hitchcock did here. So, oh boy, the marketing and the release for this film was amazing because this film, again, being produced by Hitchcock, essentially, you imagine marketing and distribution is going to be really lacking. Like an indie film.
Like Hitchcock's name, I want to make this clear, Dragon. Like, what's the biggest director working nowadays in the geek community? Probably someone like Christopher Nolan, I'd say. Hitchcock's name was worth like 10 times more than Christopher Nolan back in the day. You know what I mean? I just want to emphasize how big of a name he was in the industry.
Like the closest thing we have to Hitchcock now is possibly Spielberg. I'm just saying that's kind of like the notoriety of the director. Spielberg, of course, he's parodying God knows all the animated ambulance stuff. So of course, that's just kind of that's the best example I have of the stardom of Hitchcock back in the day. It's like, what if Spielberg did his own press?
Sure.
So essentially, to compensate for the lack of marketing, basically marketing in the movie, kind of stuff Kevin Smith has to deal with on a regular basis. Having it's word of mouth, really. That's kind of what's going on there. What Hitchcock did strategically is he kind of used his own cachet of his own name, of Master of Suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, kind of the dun 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 quality. And he's just basically the brilliant marketing pull was kind of twofold, two things. Main thing was making sure if they didn't watch the movie, they wouldn't. They wouldn't walk in after waiting for Janet Leigh after she's gone. So,
right.
They came up with this brilliant ploy of just causing mass intrigue among everyone who would hear about this movie. Of there's they have these very strict rules and limitations. If you saw the movie, you have to go in on time. You can't come out. It's encouraged that you don't share the ending with anyone, which no one did at the time. I mean, I don't know. Again, there probably was maybe one slip, but
today, as soon as the movie gets released, that shit is all over Twitter.
That just shows you how powerful and how the times have changed. But just the fact, Hitchcock is just he has these signs out, and these signs saying, okay, no one enter the theater later. You're gonna have to wait till next screening.
Right.
You make sure the curtains. It was a really fancy affair. He made it sound like this glorious. He's only played in 2 theaters at the time. Made this big glorious affair, and of course the marketing was the big thing that kind of drew everyone as well. Was the mysterious trailer that he put out, very very much kind of the Alfred Hitchcock Presents style, which is basically he's going out of his way not to talk about the movie.
It's kind of like a Lemony Snicket type delivery in a way.
Absolutely. And the last thing really bad, just to kind of take what the aftermath was in the movie, is that, believe it or not, the critics, I believe Kevin Smith, I don't mean to make all these Kevin Smith parallels, but it's kind of true.
No, it's fine. It's
like Kevin Smith, the critics initially didn't like it, because Kevin Smith early in his post kind of Miramax days, or just the kind of Jersey Hill cop out sort of days, really made enemies with critics because because it's an independent movie, they have to go out of their way to see the screens. It's not brought to them on a silver platter. And at the time Psycho was released, being somewhat of an independent, it had the same thing. The critics gave it bad reviews just to prove a point.
Right.
Unfairly. And it was either for personal reasons like that. And however people loved it, they came out really happy. And of course, it's a classic to this day and all over the map.
All right. So let's get into a brief plot summary before going forward, Dragon. So let me whip out my Carlton Cuse voice one last time. Previously on Psycho.
Okay. It's 1960. Marion Crane.
It's December 11th, 1960, which is my birthday, Dragon. I mean,
Really?
not my year. Obviously, not. I wasn't born in 1960, obviously, but yeah, December 11th is my birthday. Yeah.
Huh. In all of
Anyways,
Bates Motel, you never mentioned that.
I forgot that fact until I rewatched the movie just now.
Anyway, so Marion Crane, secretary at a real estate company,
Mhm.
longs to run away and marry Sam Loomis, her boyfriend. Which at the time, of course, is a big deal. It's kind of marrying the unwed boyfriend. She can't marry him because he's in massive debt. So again, there are obstacles in the way. She goes to work. This very opulent, loudmouth, rich client
Oh God.
puts a large down payment on a house for his daughter, as a wedding gift. Marion is instructed to take the payment, the 40,000, which nowadays would be 400,000 probably, but yeah, it's the roughly. So Marion is instructed to take it to the bank. She chooses instead to run away with it and start a new life with Sam. Presumably get married and all the lovely stuff that's accompanied with that. So, overwhelmed by paranoia over her crime, over stealing the money, in her crime, in this kind of this, and going down this dark, dirty path. She goes down this dark, dirty, rainy night. She ends up pulling into the Bates Motel, going down this path, and she befriends the owner of the Bates Motel, Norman Bates.
A nice young man.
Yeah, nice young lad. I think our hearts and minds can go off of this lad. I think that investment will pay off in the long run. So she sees Norman. she sees Norman's problem with his cruel, overbearing mother off screen. Just kind of hears like the arguments unfolding on offside. Just his mother's completely delusional whack job, and she gets a kind of a sense. She is seeing how bad he has it, so she is motivated to turn back and face the music, but only after a shower. Because again, it's a dark, dirty, rainy night. You just got to get all cleaned up and nice, and she'll leave in the morning.
Naturally.
Certainly, who wouldn't? So she's already put money down for the room. It's a middle of the night. It's like a middle of the night rate, so might as well take advantage of it. So goes in the shower, but she's interrupted by Mrs. Bates, stabbing her to death. And it's brutal, stabbing her to death. Norman is then forced to Norman's now our lead character. He's cleaning up the mess that mother left, and he sinks the body in the car. Sam and Lila, meanwhile, Lila being Marion's sister, kind of wondering what the heck happened to her. All these accusations going on. I gotta find my sister, make sure she's okay. All copacetic. Sam and Lila, along with Arbogast, the PI employed by the real estate company, or the client from the real estate company. Basically, they're all looking for Mary, and Arbogast is on there, kind of aligning themselves so they can find Mary and then face the music, whatever afterwards they find her. So Arbogast is questioning Norman, which basically that questioning leads to Mother killing Arbogast. So after Arbogast's mysterious disappearance, Sam and Lila go to the motel themselves, and to their horror, encounter Mother. Encounter Mother, the real killer. They encounter Marion's real killer. They encounter Marion's real killer, Mrs. Bates, revealed to be Norman.
What a twist!
Yep. So after Norman's capture, a psychologist kind of reveals Norman has a split personality developed after killing his own mother. Last shot, of course, alone in a room where Norman remains Mrs. Bates, where we see Norman, and Norman is remaining where Norman remains. Mrs. Bates is still in control.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go through the characters one by one, Dragon. Let's start with the man of the hour, the strappy, nice young lad, Norman Bates.
Oh my goodness! Again, when we talked about Bates Motel, we constantly cited the best way of describing how good Freddie Highmore was by citing how great the original was, and we always said Highmore is Perkins better than Perkins. While that is true, of course, you'd have the Perkins better than Perkins without the original Perkins. Is how fantastic.
Honestly, after watching this movie again, I'm like, man, this guy is so good. As good as Highmore was, man, this guy was the original who set the tone for it all.
Exactly. And again, it's just the brilliance of the conception of Norman Bates was the original book. Of course, he was like a real kind of a very unsympathetic looking character. He was just very kind of your a creepy 40-year-old guy, just really kind of
Mhm.
like kind of a shunning, kind of a weird oddball. Norman, you don't suspect. He seems like a nice young, nice young guy, just kind of caught up with caught up in a horrible situation.
Yeah, it's like he's definitely got his issues. He's definitely got some family drama going on. But it seems like, much like in the aforementioned series, Dragon, so many people have sympathy for him. You know what I mean? It's like that's the brilliant part of his character. It's like, and he knows how to mask his dark intentions, or maybe he doesn't even know that he has that dark side of him to begin with.
Exactly. See, it's kind of like this. Of course, Norman in this movie, Norman is a wonderfully complex character. Yet at the same time, we really don't get a lot with Norman, but it's done perfectly enough that it's done perfectly enough. They struck this balance where it's done perfectly enough to fill in the blanks yourself. Like anyone watching can fill in the blanks of what they feel about Norman. Just kind of that's what makes him complex. It's not what's there is just okay. Norman's just kind of doing these things, and we don't really get any answers as to like why or like how much he knows, and we're filling that in.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, just in terms of the characterization, he's polite and he represents the morally. He just represents good morality to steer Mary in the right direction.
Right, right.
And again, the big crux that I was kind of getting at with the recap is that Marion, she sees that Norman has it more rough than she does. I mean, she's made a bad decision, but she's kind of she made her devilish choice of it's kind of I'm going to
And
run
she
away from
has at
money.
least she has like options for how she wants to pursue her path going forward.
Because you got to remember, her big issue is I can't marry the man I love, which is a very first world problem compared to Norman's problem.
I know Norman's problem is like, well, my life is basically a prison right now.
Yeah, he's in
Yeah,
his own
that's
private trap.
pleasant. Right,
And
right.
that's quite literally what Norman's in. She's kind of, and that's what we really get from Norman. He's such a nice person. He's kind of stuck in such a horrific situation. Kind of shows her, well, even though things could be a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
So, and basically, the great thing in Norman too, we have so many great. Norman has so many fantastic one-liners in the thing. So many great kind of eerie, kind of haunting lines. And like one of those is that he has. Norman just keeps on as he phrases it. He keeps the lighting the lights and following the formalities, and that's just him in that private trap, which suggests something that we actually hit upon in the last Bates Motel episode. I'll say that much is that again just shows you how well they kind of represent the original in that case. Is that Norman with that line, it suggests to me that Norman's stuck in the past because he can't accept the present.
Sure, sure.
The idea that he's going through the motions because if he does he's doing the kind of he's stuck in the same loop over and over again.
And you know what
That's
I
the
love about
presumption.
that, Dragon, is that it kind of it splits the first half and the second half of the movie very well, where the first half we see the motions that he's going through, but we're just being introduced to them. So they're just like super charming and they're like winning over the audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But then by the time we turn around and get to the second half of the movie, we kind of see those same sort of actions and motions, but in a deeper kind of darker context. So it kind of twists around on itself.
of course, and we see with. And we also see, when it comes to Mother, of course, Mother's mentioned in conversation. Mother is a touchy subject for him. So again, as pleasant
Oh
as he
yeah.
is, he starts to get really tense and really kind of intimidating when the subject Mother comes back. Because where we reach with him is that he's the dutiful son. He's the dutiful son without a father. As we get later on, the fact that the mother had a boyfriend, not a father. So again, the father's kaputzi. So this guy having to be the man and being kind of outmasculated by a boyfriend, presumably. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
presumably. I don't want to read into that too much. The point is, just the dutiful son who had to be there for the mother, can't stand up to her because he's so under her thumb because he's had to kind of at this point as it's represented in the movie she's an invalid, as he keeps mentioning. He's an invalid, so he just, even if he wanted to leave, he can't because he'll just feel so guilty, and that means she can say all the horrible things she wants to him and he can't.
Right,
It's
right.
such a sad, pathetic a trap for him to be in. Your heart goes out to him, and it's just basically it makes him this perpetual abuse victim. He's going to be abused constantly, and he can't get out from under her thumb. He's like, and it's like it's the boy who's now a grown man just being abused by his mother.
Mhm.
Of course, just again, Perkins just exemplifies that great sympathy, and the thing just with the performance, I guess, kind of getting to the end here is he has all these wonderful quirks, those boy next door kind of quirks, so it's just these.
Like goodness golly me.
Exactly, during let me get your bags, milk and sandwiches, all these
Right.
all these wonderful pleasantries, you could say.
Oh yes, very much
And
so.
and of course, the brilliance of having like these little innocent quirks. I mean, he stutters a little bit when he's under questioning, and then these innocent quirks take a sinister turn after the murder. You have to wonder how much of it's genuine or not.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You don't know how much of that, especially at the very end, of course, with a revelation. So how much of that is kind of like an instinctual act, or is kind of like him falling into a thing? Like, is that like a warning that okay, there's something off with this guy, versus like just a human quirk?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he carries on with Mary. In a way, he carries on with Marion's story after she's gone. We get to see if Marion had gone down the wrong path continually, she might have ended up like Norman.
Yeah, that's an interesting,
because Norman's in over.
Yeah, Norman and Marion very much mirror each other throughout the first half of the movie, and you're right. That's kind of the great magic trick that Hitchcock plays on the audience that I'll talk about later on. Is that kind of switch in protagonists.
Yeah, because she was in over her head. Now so is Norman. Norman's in over her head by covering up, by covering up things to the world. He's the light who lives in darkness. That's what he is. His only friend. Just the sad portrait of Norman Bates you get in this one. Before we move on, his last name's anyways. Right?
Yeah.
He's like the only friend. Again, he's light who lives in like this a pit of dark. He's like that. He's like a match lit in the dark. That's what Norman is. He's his only friend is his abuser, and he's stuck in that private trap because he can't escape. There's no door to kind of lead out of this room. He essentially he is his mother in the basement. That's essentially what he is as a character. He's trapped.
Yep. Okay, so I guess let's transition then to the leading lady, at least for the first half of the film, Marion Crane. Oh boy. Yeah, Marion's an interesting character, Dragon, and I feel like I gotta say, I feel like rewatching this film, I think we gave Rihanna and Bates Motel a little too much flack because I mean, look, like the performance is good. It's just like I don't necessarily think the Marion Crane character is like really known for having like the most groundbreaking method acting. You know what I mean? Like that really goes to Perkins. So I don't know. I feel like in retrospect, the casting was a little bit more spot on than we were giving it credit for. But
I disagree with that.
Yeah, well, getting into the leading lady, it is a very kind of I love how Hitchcock kind of frames the film where you're seeing it through her eyes, and it starts out as just kind of like almost like a North by Northwest kind of caper where, like she's in this kind of precarious situation that she got herself into. She's sort of hoping to come out of it the other side okay, and then she kind of oddly enough, it's kind of like the movie starts out as North by Northwest, and then it kind of when they get to the Bates Motel, it almost kind of turns into a Hammer horror film or something like that.
In a way, she strikes me, just rewatching it, she kind of strikes me as you have this beautiful, nice girl, again, kind of the nice girl mom, this beautiful, nice girl in love, trapped in a world of what if. She's just trapped, in the beginning, that's kind of what she's trapped in. Like, she would love to kind of run away, have a happy ending with Sam. Like, what if she went in that direction, and what if she could make that happen, and what if she kind of did something not so nice, and to make that happen, which takes her down the dark road of taking one of those what ifs. She takes the what if, what if I did take them? We all have had these what if thoughts of, what if,
sure.
What if we did fed into our kind of our baser instincts here or there? What if we did something just kind of would benefit us without the moral ramifications? It's just that she takes that dark road, and we sympathize with her because she feels that we would imagine ourselves experiencing in her shoes the paranoia and the doubt constantly at every twist and turn. Like, of course, the big moment where I think one of the best moments that represents the paranoia. I'm not encroaching on any scenes. I'm saying a different one would be the first thing where she's, the real estate manager guy, the real estate boss, Mr. Lowry, George Lowry, when he's walking across the street, and of course we see
that's a great moment. Yeah.
It's another great thing.
That's what I'm talking about kind of like the North by Northwest, like sort of corporate espionage kind of stuff.
Exactly, it's that great moment. Like, she's kind of smiles and like, "Oh, hey, it's you," and then of course
right.
The horror just swoops over as we get that paranoia of just like that 3 days of Condor type thing of, "Hey, conspiracy," looks at you funny. And just like that realization of, oh god, I'm in such hot water. It's like, what if Ferris Bueller was caught in the middle of the action? That's kind of like what you get there, you know. It's
Right.
and yeah, with her, it's like I get a sense that she is a good person who is not. I was trying to think how to phrase this. You know, she is a fundamentally a good person. You know, she is taking money that's not going to be missed, and I love that we established that. Again, what she's doing is not like the worst crime ever to commit. I mean, the guy is loaded, and the guy said he's not willing. He's willing to. He said he's easily he can be easily. He said he's willing to lose 40,000. So he said, like, you know, I
Doesn't
never.
he say like, yeah, he says like never leave home with more money than you can lose or something like that.
And that's the line that puts the thought in her head of like, well, you know, this guy. Well, she's and this is the thing. Real quick, this is the thing I kind of hold against Rihanna because I think this one plays a lot better. You know, she's being real. You know, she's being really professional about her. She's just giving her like, oh yeah, but she's laughing at his jokes and stuff. Or she gets the sense, okay, if this guy is hitting on.
Okay, yeah. To be fair, yeah, the Rihanna like the wow, light as a feather. That still kind of gets under my.
See, I mean, this scene, right? I mean, the scene in the real estate office. I mean, it plays a lot better because not only do they have Pat Hitchcock, and it was just kind of fun that the director's daughter's in the movie.
Right.
But and also Hitchcock's in the scene too. Remember, he's on the outside.
Of course.
But what's great about it is just this sense of kind of like it's slice of life comedy. Well, not comedy. You know, slice of life, just kind of like levity.
Mm-hmm.
And. Again, she's taking money. It's not going to be missed. So again, it's not like she's like a bad person doing these things. Just like she's a good person. Just kind of goes down doing something that's kind of wrong, but at the same time, like not evil.
Kind of Robin Hooding in a way.
In a way.
I mean, Robin Hooding for herself, but still.
In a way, it's sort of this even though she had the best of intentions, you know, the best of intentions of you know, I did this thing wrong. I'm going to make it right. I'm going to try and make it right. Even though she had the best of intentions with that, you know, she was going to set things right. With Norm, best of intentions not only with the money, but also with Norm. Like she gave Norman advice about his mother.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that in a way, those two things, best of intentions all around with her character, that kind of seals her fate, especially when she reaches Norm with kind of that best of intentions mentality of like, hey, I'm going to try to help this guy out, when she really shouldn't have, which kind of seals, which absolutely kind of seals her fate because you know, the irony being, you know, she was going down the right path. And
by being a nice girl to Norman Bates, bad things will happen to you.
Exactly. I mean, Marianne, when you look at her, she's kind of this ultimate tragedy in a way.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. All right.
Okay, so let's get to to our strapping leading man of the film, our protagonist, if you will, Sam Loomis. Yeah, this is a turnaround.
Yeah, so of course, well, thankfully, you know, this Sam. Let's be fair. Sam Loomis here, he doesn't really.
I was very curious to see Sam Loomis after Bates Motel, and I gotta say, this guy's a nice guy.
He is, but you know what's funny? It's like with Bates Motel, what they do is they kind of have an extrapolation on this feeling I get about Sam Loomis from Psycho, and they ran wild with it in Bates Motel.
Like the feeling of like there's something going wrong that's kind of you know, like they briefly mentioned the divorce and like, oh man, Sam probably had something bad to do with that divorce.
No, that's not it. I'm just saying I think that's why rewatching when I got that line, that kind of reminded me, okay, that's why I thought there was a marriage involved. That's why I thought it was unfair.
Oh, gotcha. Right.
But the thing I've always had with Sam is that looking at it's a clever thing what they do. I'm just pointing. This always kind of is why I've like, even though Sam is supposed to be he's a likable guy and there's nothing wrong with his character here. I just want to say it's the concept of Sam Loomis I get from is that he's not really developed as a character, but his role is that he is a fun reversal of the dashing leading man as the antagonist to our actual villain. Which again, we're rooting for our villain, which is Norman. We're rooting for him. Which makes Sam the antagonist, even though again he's not in the wrong. He cares about
and Sam is the protagonist to our leading lady from the first half of the movie.
And that's the fun switcheroo there of like, oh god, man, I'm so rooting for our bad guy, and and this is the feeling I'm talking about here, where I get that bit where Sam kind of defeats Norman at the end, like, oh man, that shouldn't happen.
Right, exactly.
I always got that. Like it always feels like it always instill this feeling. I mean, when Sam Loomis is overpowering Norman in the last shot and the altercations, like it just feels so unfair for some reason.
Oh god!
It just feels like okay, and it just feels like the dashing leading man kind of.
It's kind of like a Brom Bones type thing in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of like the
like
jock
Brom
going.
Bones in The Legend of Sleeping Hollow is probably, by all intents and purposes, the nicer guy of the two.
Yeah. I mean, I always got a sense of it kind of being like kind of the jock and kind of our underdog. That's kind of the sense I've in the back of my you know, like in the pit of my stomach, I've always kind of felt that, you know, it's like the jock getting over our cool underdog.
Right.
Which doesn't feel right, even though, of course, again, he's actually saving Lila's life. So again, he is in the right, absolutely. So it's always been that. Now it's just kind of cemented my feelings on Sam Lewis going into this. Like, oh, maybe we'll get him developed as like kind of like a guy I can root for. But nope, they just went the pit in my stomach rail. Like, yeah, there's something we've been cheerleading his death in Bates Motel.
But I do like a lot of Sam moments here. You know, I do think he's in a genuinely sympathetic situation when it comes to the relationship with Marion.
Yeah, I think his best scene to me is probably when he's, when he's saying, "Someone better explain what's going on here."
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I also really like his confrontation with Norman at the end of the film. Not like when he's apprehending Norman, but when he's, you know, that kind of very tense, like small talk that he's doing to distract Norman.
Yeah. And again, that's like that's playing that pit of my stomach feel of like, oh man, there's some like again, this like he's getting it over our bag, even though we're so complex in the emotions who you're rooting for.
Right. Okay.
Speaking of Sam, let's get to his partner in crime.
Let's get to Lila.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have a ton to say about Lila, but she's.
Well, I don't think he likes Lila, but.
Oh God.
Sorry, no, that's a dumb hero.
Oh man.
No, but Lila, you know, she's the concerned sister. You know, she takes.
I really didn't like Lila. That was one of the sore spots of Hey Arnold for me.
Really?
I didn't like Lila.
I know. So you didn't like Lila?
Yeah, I really didn't like her. Anyways.
Or did you not like her?
Oh God. Anyways.
Right. Anyway, so Lila here, the Vera Miles, Lila.
Yes. Vera. Yes. Oh my God.
Hang on that one. I was waiting for because I remember you got so excited when you saw Vera.
Right.
Anyway, so Vera Miles plays Lila, and you got to remember Vera Miles, of course, has some tension with Hitchcock on that because the two of them have she kind of let him down, and in a way you can't really hold her accountable for. But it's always kind of been. I think that's why Lila gets a lot of the screaming moments. Just like that might be Hitchcock's kind of dig at her, maybe.
Sure.
I mean, it's part of the plot, so I can't really say one way or another. But the point is, she's the concerned sister, and what's interesting about her, she kind of takes Marion's place in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, her and Sam kind of have they kind of develop this sort of like buddy cop dynamic in a way.
In a way, yes.
I don't know. I do like how gung ho she is about like when Abergast doesn't show up, she's like, no, something's wrong. Like, we can't just sit here and wait. We have to go up there. You know what I mean? She's got a really good instinct to her.
With that instinct, it's like we put her in the best example I have would be kind of the Clarice Starling kind of third act of Silence of the Lambs she was wearing. She's going up against Buffalo Bill sort of bit where, she's entering the house like, no, don't go in there. Don't go in there. And of course, it's kind of your classic kind of like, you're the lead girl in the heart in a slasher movie type vibe. So just the fact that she's really brave with how she's looking into her sister's disappearance and not giving up. And of course, I think by the very end in the third act, she just becomes, I think we realize in the moment that, oh my God, she's us, the audience.
Mm-hmm.
At the very end with her.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just say that Vera Miles as Lila does take a bigger role in the Psycho sequel. I can say that much. He has a really meaty role in the sequel.
Nice. Okay, let's see who's next. It looks like Arbogast. Arbogast. Is that right?
I'm saying that's the gag in the movie. The chamber says Arbogast.
Arbogast.
We got Arbogast played by Marty Balsam.
This guy's, I don't know, just kind of the closest thing this movie has to a Jim Gordon in a way.
Oh, he's not. Come on, Chambers is more Jim Gordon.
Okay, fine. Chambers is more Jim Gordon. This guy's more Batman then.
Oh, come on. He is not Batman.
Oh, God. I don't know. I like the idea that this guy's kind of like the larger than life private eye who's he's kind of like the hero of his own story in a way.
I'm glad you said. I wrote that. I got that too. Yeah,
Okay, good.
He plays so overconfident, like he's the star of this movie. No one else knows.
Right. He just kind of comes into it like, well, why would anyone want to watch anything other than what I'm doing? I mean, come on, I'm the competent professional here.
Yeah, he's kind of flaunts his importance from the get go. He puts. In a way, you could read it as he's putting on kind of what Norman's facade is at times. He's kind of putting on that I'm saying when he talks to people, when he talks to Norman, he's just being like, kind of, I'm your friend sort of thing. Of course, we know he has an ulterior motive just to get the $40,000.
Mm.
Not to steal it, but to recover it. So I'm just saying when he that level he puts on Norman, because we know he's just trying to get the facts versus like be his buddy. So I'm just saying he can put on that facade like when he's talking to Norman. It's kind of a similar thing. Norman has a different side of his personality. He's kind of getting out there. Yeah, but it's disingenuous though, and with that, this it's like we hit that weird ambiguity like we do with Sam Loomis a little bit here, where this guy here, he is not wrong, but he is a little slimy, right? Doesn't he feel a little slimy to you?
Just a little bit, yeah.
That's the thing, again, he's
like he feels very opportunistic, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't care about marrying Crane. He cares about this job and about getting paid and about his own glory, you know what I mean?
It's like from the very beginning, his introduction, he's like so overconfident. He's like walking in, there's the cues making accusations, like, "Oh man, you prick!" Just you're walking in there and you're flaunting. "Oh yes, Dragon, I'm looking for your criminal sister."
Dragon, have you seen No Country for Old Men?
It's been a long while, but yeah.
Okay, Arbogast kind of reminds me of Woody Harrelson in No Country for Old Men. Now, if you remember, Woody Harrelson plays this like hotshot bounty hunter guy who's out to take out sugar, and he has history with sugar. And basically the point is that he's just like a real hotshot who's just like, I'm the only one who knows how to take down this guy. And Sugar just completely wastes him, like with no effort at all.
That sounds about right. That sounds good.
All right, anyways.
And again, it's like in a way, I kind of read that just with Arbogast's fate here. The last thing I really have to say about him is I think he just kind of he in a way his sliminess is how he's kind of like he kind of sneaks into the house. That's him paying his death is him paying the price for intruding on Norman's private trap.
Oh boy, right.
And in a way, it's kind of a fun divide here. With Bates Motel, the private trap was basically Norman's dark paradise. So here we get to see the private trap as a negative thing versus the positive thing.
Sure.
I was saying it's like anyone intruding on that is definitely not leaving that house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, not alive.
All right, let's get into to Officer Chambers, Sheriff Chambers. Sorry.
They were sheriff for 5 seasons, and we're pulling officer. Oh, I'm sorry, never mind. I don't mean to sound harsh on that. Al Chambers.
Okay. This guy and his wife are just like the kind of the avatars of the townspeople that feel bad for Norman. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's really interesting, Dragon. Before the turn with Romero, we actually kind of thought that Romero was going to take on this position at the end of Bates Motel for a while.
Yeah, from the very beginning, we're expecting, after Romero saves Norm at the end of season 1, we're expecting Romero to be Chambers going forward.
Right. We're expecting like the nice cop who's understanding towards Norman, even though he knows he's crazy.
That's what season 2 is really built on, like him relating to Norman with the whole Blair Witch thing. So so. Then of course we actually get Chambers in Bates Motel, and unfortunately we don't. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. Things worked out well for 5. I mean, we got Brooke Smith as Sheriff Green,
mm-hmm.
Which essentially that was somewhat of our Chambers, and we actually did get the real Chambers in we got Detective Chambers at the end of season 4, very end of season 4.
Right.
And she served the same role as Sheriff Chambers here, basically the person that sees Norman as this likable person who's not at fault, who is just like, okay, well, who is there to report upon the death, and that's kind of the role of Chambers here, where more specifically in this movie, what Chambers and the missus, we never got a name on it, so I have this Mrs. L.
Mm-hmm.
They show the effect Norman has on people as a whole. Like, we saw like the poor kid, he lost his lost his mother in the very terrible circumstances, and this kind of hits upon the great opener of season 5, the Hollies, everyone like the one with the dog. Like, first
Right.
of all,
Oh, Norman,
like
you're just cute as a peanut.
I think that's more always big holiday, but yes.
Well, yeah, it is, but you know, it's the same idea.
And the thing I kind of rewatching it kind of occurred to me is it's kind of a nice example of local law versus kind of the self-motivated PI, just kind of a divide. Like, here's like, again, Norman being kind of initially our morally upstanding guy, and we see some other people from the small towns being, okay, we have some nice upstanding, law-abiding good representations of law, and versus like in where Marion everyone's coming from. We have like the Arbogast being this guy's like, yeah, I mean, I don't care if I'm making people feel bad. I'm going to be really direct about it. Do your dead sister? Where did you? Like tell me, so your dead sister. How much money did you steal?
Right.
Oh, she skipped town. That's because she's guilty, right?
Oh man.
Let's bring her in, dead or alive. No, he's not actually saying this. So Chambers always kind of a nice little scene in the movie, and of course, like they're church going folks. They're nice folks. Chambers.
Yeah. I do think Chambers was kind of a memorable standout. Like he only has about one scene in the film, but I think it's a pivotal scene. Yeah, 2, right? But
yeah.
Anyways,
let's talk about our star.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about the reason why we are doing this, when we are doing this. The mother of it all. Oh, dear. Okay.
The mother of all stars.
Oh, man. I don't even know where to begin with this, because it's very, very interesting the way that Hitchcock frames the mother character. It's far different than what we see on Bates Motel.
Yes. Of course. Oh, boy. So you're right where it starts. The interpretation of mother in Psycho is that she's a cruel old crone. That's always been the interpretation of mother classically, and that's always
kind of like evil P.L. Travers.
Kind of.
I'm sorry, I don't know where I got that analogy.
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I don't want to get a little Travers comparison. Yeah. Anyway. So she's like, I'm thinking the Emma Thompson one. The Emma Thompson was really nice, even when she's being cruel. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, so the point is, we always had kind of the old crone. And by the way we get that sound, interestingly, did you know Mother was an amalgamation of 3 voices?
No, I did not.
It's if I'm reading my names right here, it's Virginia Gruhl. Paul, there's a man in the works. There's a woman, Virginia Gruhl, who's the main voice because she delivers the ending monologue. It's all her. Paul Jasmine. That's our man. I guess. Of course, the great thing about Mother is you also have to. You would have to imagine it's also a man's voice that Marion has to hear. Right. Marion has to hear Mother, and you have to imagine it's to be somewhat of a male tone in that. So if anyone on the outside's hearing her, of course, it would have to be a little bit male because that's Norman talking.
Right.
And Jeanette Nolan, if I'm saying that right, Nolan or Nowlan.
Okay.
So anyway, so what we get what's so great with Mother, because with Mother is like obviously we don't see her until the very end, but there's a lot of stuff you can kind of interpret from the voice. I found is that you get a sense of history and control, just the way she's yelling at Norman off screen, just jumping all these insane conclusions. And so this there's a girl down there, you're seeing her, don't you? You want me away so you can frolic.
Oh God!
Basically, she's just you get a sense that she's so vicious, just stemming from this. Here's a really interesting thing about her is that deep down you have to imagine there's some kind of like invisible kind of love deep down. That it's not just one side. It's not just Norman being really loving towards the mother. It has to imagine that deep down, even though she's being so cruel, and all the stuff she's
being so cruel because she's trying to protect him.
Yes, and you get a sense of that. You get a sense it's not just like Norman's being real. You're not wondering why Norman's. You understand in the okay, that's his mother being super ridiculously overprotective.
Right. Exactly.
And again, she has to be strong to. She has to be strong to just kind of be that trapping that's keeping Norman down. She has to be that strong kind of like force that's just keeping Norman locked down in a way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's talk about the depictions of her dragon. Of course, we get the, very obscured shots of Perkins in the dress from the shower and with the Arbogast staircase scene. And then I think it's very intriguing, Dragon, that we never see Perkins talking his mother. I think that's a really Probably a practical choice from a directorial standpoint, but one that kind of just adds a level of creepiness to it.
What's really funny is that, just to show you a little bit, just a glimpse at kind of the legacy of Psychos, a glimpse at here, is that Batman the Animated Series here. Of course, I know it sounds ridiculous, but just back to you. Batman always works its way in the basement until somehow when we talk about it.
You're not the first person who brought up Batman in this podcast.
True. But my point is, there's an episode of Batman the Animated Series in season 3 with the ventriloquist. Yeah, do you remember the ventriloquist at all? Any idea?
Vaguely.
Anyway, the point is, the way the animated series wonderfully dealt with the ventriloquist is that they framed it like Psycho. So
okay,
it's kind of funny too, because initially Penguin, they wanted to do Psycho with the Penguin, but then they weren't able to, so they kind of did it with the ventriloquist. With the ventriloquist, basically, because there was a big reveal that there was a big boss to this crime syndicate that Batman was going after, and we didn't know they were building the reveal that it was a dummy. And later on, when Batman, after he found that, oh my God, it's a puppet. There's a scene where basically the ventriloquist, they obscure the fact that they play it, even though we know it's a dummy. They play it like it's
actually talking.
Exactly, like we don't see like from the other room. He's throwing his voice because he's a ventriloquist, so it's coming from the other room, like it would be in Psycho.
Right.
You know, like it's Norman talking to his mother in the bedroom when he's lifting her and moving her downstairs. Like they frame it like that. And it's like they build to the psychological climax just like Psycho. It's really funny. They have like these great kind of Hitchcockian touches on it, like these really eerie things. It's I'm just saying that's kind of what we had with Mother, and it just shows you it's a great take to kind of go with that. So
and of course, all throughout the movie, we're getting like these built upon mysteries with the mother character, nonetheless being Mrs. Bates died 10 years ago. You know, like if that's like if Mrs. Bates is in the grave, then who's in the window? You know.
I love that we build her up so monstrously. We keep building her up as just kind of this,
this supernatural force almost.
Almost. I mean, just from the very beginning, just hearing her kind of speak, she's so. I mean, just in your mind, you're just picturing her, even though she's probably this old woman, just has this big booming voice compared to Norman's kind of meek, really kind of nice guy voice.
Right.
And just in terms of Mother's motivations, just looking, you gotta assume she kills Mary, not just along with just out of jealousy, just like he was another woman, period. And with that protective instinct that, again, it's stemming from a good place, just super corrupted and self-motivated. There's also, I believe, it's a bit of self-preservation. These are all things we constantly brought up in Bates Motel, which again shows like kind of motivations for Mother. But I imagine the threat of commitment, because I imagine when Marion brings up committing, it's just reminding Norman of something he's considered himself, which endangers Mother, which is why she has to get rid of Marion. Like she's putting ideas in the kid's head. I need a distraction. I need to get her out. Let's kill two birds with one stone.
Right.
And of course, Arbogast, there's an intruder, again, someone encroaching on our happiness here, so dead.
Yeah.
It's like all of Norman's darkness is manifest itself as I kind of read Mother as this on the rewatch. All of Norman's darkness manifests itself as his ultimate shame and lie to himself, which is he killed his own mother and he becomes her and he doesn't know this. So that's what it's all just. The embodiment of all the darkness from those actions is the crime itself. It's very Edgar Allan Poe-esque.
It is very much so.
But again, she's still pulling the strings. She is the more dominant personality. Again, this is
it really, like, rewatching that ending really, of course we'll talk more about the ending later, but it really kind of hits home with you, the whole dual personality element of the story that was there the whole time.
Exactly. It's really just it's very frightening, and Mother is truly frightening. Not only just her appearance, but again, the Mother that is in his head is far more terrifying than the Mother that's just the corpse. Even though it's weird.
Oh yeah. The corpse is kind of like the B movie element of Psycho. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But again, they sell you on it. By the real story about the corpse. So. These are the brilliant stories I love about the making of Psycho. By the way, folks, if you want these stories just kind of told better and just kind of in sequence, there's a documentary, and I forget if it's based on the book that gives us Hitchcock, but it's called The Making of Psycho. I'm just going to share the same title. So type in Making of Psycho documentary, and I'm sure you'll be entertained. But real quick thing with the Mother thing. So as we saw in the Hitchcock movie, remember when Janet Leigh entered at the end and the Mother was in her dressing room?
Mm-hmm.
Scared the crap out of her. That's actually how they picked the dummy. So what they did is they, throughout the production, Hitchcock in her dressing room hid Mother all over the place. And what happened was that every time she would discover one, they kind of judged the final one they were going to use by which one elicited the most horrifying scream.
Right, makes sense.
So the one that made the most horrifying scream is the one you see in the movie, like the one they hid in there eventually that just let out like the most blood-curdling, horrifying scream. That's the thing. We found our Mrs. Bates. We got her. Okay, I wonder if they cast Vera Farmiga in the same way. Only it was like,
except like how charmed people, like they were, like Vera Farmiga would just play hide and go seek and then like pop out randomly like, you found me.
Oh god, that'd be great. I just want to imagine that's how she gets all her roles. She's just kind of adorifies people to death.
Okay.
So cute.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Vera Farmiga much more adorable than the mother in this movie.
Oh yeah, but again, even Vera Farmiga, she's such a good actress. She actually became the corpse.
She did. She did.
And it was her. It wasn't even she had a stunt corpse very few times, but she was, for the most part, man, like 80% of the time, she was that corpse.
Oh yeah. Okay, so is that it for the characters, Dragon? Should we transition into the technicalities?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the music and the cinematography. What do you got for this?
Of course, music done by the vastly talented Bernard Herrmann.
Dragon, I feel like this score is like almost like a predecessor to what John Williams would do with Jaws.
You got to remember, some of the best composers in Hollywood, they looked up to or they were motivated big time by Bernard Herrmann. I mean, Danny Elfman, yeah, he did the score for Hitchcock because he was a huge Bernard Herrmann influence, and he was his idol.
Yeah. This movie just has such a driving power to it with the music. Just it's just constantly going. It keeps you in the mindset and the anxiety-ridden headspace of Marion and then Norman as it switches to Norman, and then of course it has those great build-ups to the stings. I love the placement of the stings, Dragon. We get it 3 times throughout the course of the film.
Course, and something to note again, I keep going with this comparison because it's very accurate because they are of the time of each other. Essentially, Psycho, I know came first. I'm saying it was the Jaws of its time, and Jaws was the Psycho of its time.
Yeah, Psycho was, made everyone afraid of showers. Jaws made everyone afraid of the beach.
Yeah, and what's cool about that, the reason I bring up the comparison yet again is just the whole, they are very much blockbusters. That are I keep forgetting if Psycho came out in the summer or not, but
I think it did.
I would hope so. Then I could use the summer blockbuster comparison. Regardless, they're blockbusters. Let's say they're summer blockbusters. Regardless, the point is, not only being within almost 10 years of each other, again, a little over with Jaws, but the point is the music. I think it's safe to say of any movie ever. The score in Jaws and Psycho makes the movie. If you take the score out, the movies will not be as memorable as they are. I think it's a pretty safe thing. I mean, Star Wars would be the third. You can make a case where I think Star Wars does enough really cool stuff that could, if you had someone else doing the score, you might be able to still muddle through with Star Wars. It just wouldn't be as iconic with
and we basically saw the result of that with Rogue One.
Rogue One was good with the score, though. It wasn't memorable.
I'm just saying it wasn't Williams. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute, are we sure John Williams did? Oh, right, it was Giacchino, right, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyways. It was going to be Desplat.
Oh, yeah, right, it was going to be Desplat. I like Giacchino, it was great.
Yeah, anyways.
Back on point. Yeah, you see what I mean? I'm just saying they'll take the score out of the equation for this one. It's just, it's not the same movie.
I mean, yeah, sure. Like I said, it's just like the score kind of just adds to the headspace of the characters, especially like Marion when she's driving along, and you got that great kind of driving, like the violins and whatnot.
Yeah,
really good stuff.
It just plays up the horror and the unsuspecting build, because we get not only do we get like the horrific stings that you're mentioning, which are great, but not only do we get that, but it's so great. It's like essentially the music's all strings, essentially. which in itself is intimidating. Just it's all strings and purely intimidating. And the way they use it is like basically it takes the audience guts and plays them. That's kind of what the joke is.
Sure.
But what's so great about it is that it lulls you into that false sense of security because it does have like a romantic score in the beginning, very romantic old Hollywood score, which
It does, yeah.
Which in itself, even if you didn't get the horrific cues afterwards, what's so great is that on the whole, the music it takes an indie film and makes it a classic with the score, makes it classic cinema with the score.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so again, I think we talked about the score. And again, we go on for hours. We really want to break down the score.
All right, let's talk about the cinematography then.
Of course, cinematography, again, the other really super iconic thing would say is it has that Hitchcock kind of flair, like the most inventive camera moves. Again, like that's the thing I kind of say about Hitchcock, is that Hitchcock does everything, kind of the opposite of everything in the book, yet he makes it work.
Yeah, we have the close-ups on the faces, which are really effective. I think my favorite shot in the movie, Dragon, and we'll get to it more with my favorite scenes, is Arbogast's death.
Yes, yeah, of course, like the falling backwards down.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
I think, of course, the opening shot is just one to marvel at. It's still one to marvel at. Just you lead the audience, you're kind of getting kind of we're getting a glimpse of how Norman Bates will view our characters in this state, or at least view Marion in this state, but we're getting that little tease at that in the very beginning of the movie as we kind of have that really inventive window shot.
Of course.
We are peeking in on them as Norman will be peeking in on Marion.
And speaking of which, we have, of course, the iconic peephole and stuff like that, which would just weave its way into just iconic, just like benchmarks of the horror genre.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick on the peephole. I was rewatching. Something kept eating away at me. I want to know what your view on this is. When Marion says, she has the paper sticking out of her bag, it says Los Angeles because she needs an address to put on the book, right? You remember that? So she says Los Angeles, and I kind of noticed this for the second time I was watching, is that when Norman hears that, when he hears Los Angeles, he's reaching for the room 3. When he hears Los Angeles, he then goes to room 1.
Oh, okay.
Do you think Los Angeles is the reason he decides to spy on her, to peep on her? Like she's like an LA girl. Do you think that?
I mean, that could add an air of like sex appeal to her. You know what I mean?
That's what I was kind of curious about. I mean, honestly, I considered it, but I thought, I think it's just a coincidence. But I'm just saying, something to consider, right? Because there's the timing.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is very much like Hitchcock directed this movie immaculately, and I don't think like little gestures like that are just unintentional.
That's the thing, because I mean, there's a moment of pause in that, because the way Highmore replicates that in Bates Motel, but he does it like a quirk. Here, it's done seemingly very intentionally. He was going to go for 3.
Sure.
I'm just saying maybe the reason was, I'm just saying it's time just with that Los Angeles made me thing. I just wanted to bring it up for that case. And again, we're still talking about kind of the intricacy of the specificity of these shots.
Right.
Let's see, any other really fantastic. I mean, overall, it's super.
Yeah, I know. In terms of the cinematography, I think we can kind of transition into the iconic shots because those are really what makes the cinematography in the film.
Okay, I guess. So,
sure. Do you want to transition to that? Like, let's go to the iconic moments and then our favorite scenes.
Yeah, sure. But again, it's on the whole, transition. On the whole, just all these shots are so well done. It's just so beautifully shot in black and white. All this stuff.
Oh yeah, like I said, the black and white, the use of the shadows and the colors, and the muted gray tones. It's all so good.
Because I tell you, just rewatching, because you've seen it so many times, the story like the back of your hand. Just rewatching, just kind of really observing the beauty of it. Just like, oh my god, the quality of black and white is just it's astoundingly just crystalline. It's like when we see the shot that really rung out to me is when Lila is like running, she's shadowed, but it's in black and white. She's like running like to camera. She's running like down like an aisle or something. It's like, oh my god, that's such a well composed shot. And looks
right.
Wow, yeah. Anyway.
All right. Okay, so let's transition to the iconic moments. Dragon, of course, starting with the shower scene, which again is like just one of the most impeccable uses of kind of showing just enough to leave it up to the imagination and kind of like, like people swear that they see Marion getting stabbed in the shower. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I don't think I have a You didn't watch Psycho Legacy yet, have you?
No.
I know. I'm not chastising for him.
You told me it was mostly about the sequels.
You're right. I'm not. I'm asking. I'm not holding you against me.
Okay, but no, I have not yet.
I bring it up because in Psycho Legacy, when they cover Psycho, there is this one bit in there where someone freeze framed the shower scene, like frame by frame, and they kind of again, it's kind of hard to dispute, but there is a close up insert of like a double of Marion where basically it does stab her once, very slightly.
Geez.
It's like it's a stunt. I mean, the girl isn't actually getting stabbed, but it's like
well,
she has like
sure.
I'm just saying, like you see the knife go into skin, but there's no blood. It goes into the skin so quickly though. But it's like if you freeze frame, like when you see her stomach, like your belly, like next to her belly button or something, like the ab area just kind of gets like stabbed a little bit. I'm saying that was like frozen frame by frame. You get when you eventually Tegan, when you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about better than I'm describing. I'm just pointing it out there. So there is some debate. Actually, they kind of sneaked one in.
That is so in Hitchcock style, though, right? Like now we're going to say that there's no stabbing, but we're going to sneak in this one shot just because we need the one shot to really sell the moment.
It's so great. It's like the one stab there doesn't have any blood, and it goes by like that.
Right, yeah.
It's like the ultimate little Hitchcock Easter egg. Like, oh, he actually did get stabbed. But you're right. So of course it was so groundbreaking. It broke new ground. At the time, is that it was such an unsuspecting murder because you're in your most vulnerable state in the shower, and of course, we're expecting because she's gonna make it out of it fine. This is like now, of course, after this movie, we mirrored so many times. We go through the especially
like basically when we see a character archetype like this, like the attractive young woman who gets herself into a precarious situation, it's like okay, she's probably gonna die about halfway through.
Well, or notably, just again, like in the shower in a state of undress. I'm saying that's kind of the slasher kind of handbook that we get from Psycho, especially like Nightmare on Elm Street, girls in the bathtub when the claw comes out.
Of course, and then of course I love the effective use of the shadow as it moves towards the curtain, and your eye. It's like you almost don't know like if your eyes are playing tricks on you or not.
Just because of how well this was shot, Janet Leigh actually is petrified of. All through her life, she was petrified of taking a shower, so she only took baths with the door open.
Oh God!
After this scene, just because there's such a horrifying shoot.
Let me see. It's interesting, like watching this scene because it's like it's so iconic, right?
Yeah.
But even watching it to this day, I still get a little bit like it's still suspenseful because it's like what's coming. But you still are not like you're still kind of dreading that music stinger. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a Jack in the Box jump scare in a way.
It is the great it's kind of the great trick of rewatchability. Is like now you know what's coming, but again, it's like you're so caught up you don't realize it.
Right.
You could actually time to when it's going to happen. You're so caught up in it. It's like I can sense it up my spine. It's about to happen. So just on the whole, though, again, it's it's seductive, it's violent, and it's so well shot and composed. It just like all these elements is kind of fitting so well together. And again, it's like it's amazing to get away with that so artfully. That again, you get all this stuff. Again, it's like this scene is like impossible to shoot. It's impossible to shoot with the parameters of the 60s. That's what I'm getting. Is like at the time, this would be something to get away with. Get with again, like would be commonplace nowadays. Like, again, hey, let's throw in a nude girl. So you give the kids some like that. Like the guy from who directed Nightmare 4. I'm referring to that documentary. Anyway. The point is, like at the time, it's something that's so hard to shoot. Like, you have to avoid too much blood. You got to avoid nudity. You got to avoid all this stuff, and you also have to like something that's also one other thing I'll mention about the Psycho Legacy thing is that they also they focus on the shower scene. That's the main thing they talk about with the original Psycho. The shower scene and Norman Bates is the two things they really talk about with the original Psycho, and they show like these little shots you never considered before. Where you see the shower head shot, remember that when you see the water coming down the shower?
Sure.
That shot is impossible to get without getting water on the camera. So they had to. That's a perspective shot where basically all the spigots on the shower are wide enough so they land around the camera.
Oh wow.
That's the thing. That's a perspective. That's like an impossible shot to get. That they found a way to do that because again, at the
Uh-huh.
time, we don't have like the advent of CG or like kind of like we can move the thing
Or
back.
like tiny like handheld cameras and stuff
Exactly.
like
There's like a
that.
big camera.
Yeah,
They have to
yeah.
base. I don't know. The thing might be oversized in the shot, whichever. The point is like they have to arrange like custom make that thing so it has water coming down around the camera.
Wow. Yeah. That's
That's
some
amazing,
diligence
right?
there.
So it's like
Yeah,
it puts you in the ultimate POV shot of being in the shower.
of course.
So let's see. Of course, like the last, we got to talk about the last shot of the shower scenes. Of course, just all the amazing, just kind of shots, and of course, like the hand shot, like grabbing for the curtain, all that stuff, and of course, the
Mhm.
final shot. That's the eye shot.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
The illusion of life straining out of the eye. I mean, that's and the again, that's it's an amazing thing to get there and just to pull back and the glimpse at, and of course, the glimpse at Norman's reaction, like, "Oh God, Mother, there's so much blood."
Right, right. Okay, so speaking of Mother, let's go to the reveal of Mother. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, so the climax of the third act. There's such a great. Every time I rewatch Psycho, I'm so appreciative of the intense build of like how the again, of course, we always linger on the the dun, 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 dun theme,
Mhm.
but the theme that builds up to that, the whole dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's kind of what I was talking about with Jaws Dragon. It kind of reminds me of the do 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 do. You know.
yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. I love that build from Jaws.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
we gushed over that when we did that
Right,
Jaws theme.
right.
But yeah, that intense build is like that shows you because now we know Norman's on his way to stop her from. Again, it's so well integrated the way it's so well set up because we know Norman's rushing as fast as he can to stop her from seeing Mother,
Mhm.
and of course now again this is where the genius comes in because we don't know at this point that Mother's there. We don't know. We assume Mother's another person, but if Norman's rushing his way to stop her on the way, he's dressing up like Mother for the big reveal.
Right, right.
And
Just the
like we, the
semantics
audience,
of
the
it
first,
all.
and we, the audience, the first time we're wondering, where is Mother? Like she's in the fruit cell. Is she like? We're on the edge of our seats. You imagine, if not us, then the audience, the first time watching, they're on the edge of their seats, wondering, oh my God, is Mother armed with a knife when she turns her around like that, just gonna stab her right in the throat or something? God.
Mhm.
And they even got a at the time, and again another like shot that is easy to get now is just ask J.J. Abrams, but now it's easy. Back then, they got a lens flare, they got a
Oh
practical lens
God.
flare, which was really hard
Right.
to get. When she knocks the light back and forth, there's a lens flare there,
Sure,
and
sure,
they had to
yeah.
get that practically. They had to get it just right to knock it down a few takes to get it just the land just right. Just oh god, the return of the score, just the right moment because we get the Mother's kind of like her big theme. Whenever Mother kills someone or is like her big reveal
Mhm.
attempting to kill someone, we get the Psycho theme.
Of course. And then as we reveal, it's a great kind of like build as we cut back and forth between Lila and Sam as Lila's in the house and about to discover the body of Mrs. Bates, and then like Norman is running up to kill Lila as Norma Bates. It's just a crazy culmination of
And
events.
and after Bates Motel season 5, or after at least when we're getting close to the end, when I was rewatching Psycho, I completely forgot about this. Just the brilliance of how season 5 used this. One of our favorite one of our favorite lines from season 5 actually was from the original. It said they worked it into season 5. They got the whole basically in season 5, Bates Motel, it's like, my name is Norma Bates, and I'm still alive.
Right,
So
right.
that actually, I would bet it that it's coming from this scene with the whole "I'm Norma Bates." Remember, that's
Yeah,
the last
yeah.
line.
Sure, sure.
I never put that together until after. Oh
Oh
my god! Like yeah,
God.
she's saying I'm Norma Bates.
Okay. Let's
And
see.
again, something to
Yeah.
address with that scene is that, especially in the modern crowd watching this, you have the reveal she's dead the whole time. Then Norman appears, with this just giant evil, basically mirroring her dead expression on his face with the big, like the big smile and everything.
Mhm.
Just Norman's his mother. It's we the audience, and the audience is like too blindsided to laugh, and the music's so ramped up, and we're taking it in as Lila is. And I think that's success. I think successfully they do that, because if you don't do that right, it could be really hilarious.
It could be. It could be. Yeah, it's just like, what? Like, this is ridiculous, Hitchcock. Hitchcock jumped the shark, you know?
And just, again, like, if you put this down on paper, so then I'm Norman Bates, and and then he's then taken down by Sam. So with the takedown from Sam, I don't know. I spoke to the kind of the pit of my stomach thing earlier on, but seriously, we do have to acknowledge this with the cinematography, that there was a astoundingly perfect shot in this scene where, when Perkins is having his meltdown after he's been kind of manhandled by Sam Loomis, he's been taken down, the disarming the knife and everything. The way he turns his head in such a haunting way, with the mouth open, everything. Like, the wig comes off in one shot. Well, technically two shots. You know what I mean? The two motions.
Yeah.
The wig comes off at least halfway, and the buttons on the shirt so well kind of timed. The buttons on the frock on the house coat thing Mother's wearing, the mother costume, comes off, revealing Norman's clothes underneath. So you see in one shot. Oh my God! It's like the ultimate.
Yeah, I did notice that. I'm glad you bring that up, Dragon. I did notice that. That's kind of like the ultimate sort of visual representation of Norman Bates in a way. You know what I mean? Like the man jumping out of the women. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sorry. I'm Norman Bates, and again, it's like in one shot. It's revealed.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, let's move on to the ending then. Oh my God,
which is definitely my favorite scene. I think a lot of people. Here's the weird thing, Tiggy. As much as everyone in cinema takes the shower scene away from this movie, for me, again, just based on what got me in the movie, it's always the end scene.
I mean, this ending scene is like, it's haunting, just in terms of like the idea of it. You know what I mean? Just the finality of it.
Oh yeah, just the implication is so frightening that this nice lad is gone forever.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be clear, Stefano's always said, he did. Of course, he's not working on or anticipating the sequels. Not counting the way the sequels went. This as the end all be all ending, just the Psycho period. Again, the horrifying implications that Norman is gone forever.
Right.
Well, we do said the sequels kind of rewrite that, but again, they didn't know sequels were going to be made in a really haunting way. This is the way it goes. Like, for all he knows, like if Norman gets out, he's going to be Mother, and if he doesn't get out, he's just going to be stuck as Mother forever. So again, we have this. The scene is so. And this is what I'm talking about. That kind of the Batman animated series reference here. Where, like, off screen, you hear like a woman, the womanly mother, kind of saying, "Thank you." Thank you for the blankets.
Again, I think it's like, even though it was probably born out of practicality to not show Perkins actually saying those lines. Yeah. I think it just works so well with the creepiness and the otherworldliness of the situation.
Exactly. And we get this flawless shot. And again, kind of like the shot we had beforehand. I'm just saying, we have capture a shot that so perfectly represents everything. So here we get this staged so perfectly. And this is the scene that I always go to for Psycho in my mind. Here's just this flawless shot of Norman in the blanket. He's covered with the blanket he's just got from Ted Knight, who, by the way, a little cameo of Ted Knight. To the Mary Tyler Moore fans out there, he was uncredited in the movie, but it's Ted Knight. Flawless shot of Norman in the blanket. Mother believes, basically we just hear that the voice of Mother just calmly, again, not just loudly, not just bellowing, just like this really eerie kind of not just cruel, but just really like kind of like.
Just very calculated is the word, I think.
Yes, calculated and reflective, like reflecting on her actions. Like, I'm at the end here, but I'm not beat. That's kind of the tone here. It's like just believing that, admitting that, yes, maybe I should have locked him away long ago. Admitting that she believes that she should have locked Norman away years ago, and of course, scarily, in a way, here's the really horrifying notion here, is that technically she's right. She's right, but we the audience know that she was, based on this movie. Of course, she's the cause of all this. She's her hold on him. She is definitely holds some blame to bear on what drove Norman to all this. But at the same time, she's right. Norman, she should have put Norman in. Norman's admitting that to himself, that, hey, my mother should have seen what was happening with us was wrong, and she should have gotten me help, or I should have gotten myself help. One of the two.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And
it's there's there's an indication here. I want to get your review on this, Deke. Is
Okay.
that Norman, this ending, it never really occurred to me until I really kind of thought about it here, is that I've always, throughout the ending of Bates Motel, I've always been pitching that catatonic thing, remember? I've always been saying, like, if we ended the dark way, he'd be kind of catatonic.
Sure.
Here, again, I never put this together before when I was theorizing that. It now occurs to me, is that Norman's really in a kind of stationary position, and the way Mother's talking, she's suggesting in dialogue that, she's not going to harm a fly. All that stuff is suggesting she's not going to move at all. And basically, if scrutiny falls on her, she's going to remain in the corpse-like state, like not moving, which suggests that Norman could be in a catatonic state if she's paranoid that people are watching her, so she's not going to move.
Oh God, that's so creepy. And again, that's just the genius thing about what Hitchcock did with this. He took an unsettling story, right? And he just amplified it and put it under a microscope and just really just got all the creepy ideas he could out of that concept, to the point where we're still analyzing it and finding new meanings and new kind of chilling context with it all.
Exactly. I mean, this is more horrifying than the shower death, if you ask me.
I agree. Yeah.
It's just this idea of just, she'll be playing inanimate, and of course Norman is just going to suffer for that. Just her just being playing like when humans walk in Toy Story, it's like they always have to go. When the grown-ups go in Toy Story, they play inanimate.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So again, it's like and then of course the line is this. The line that kind of was introduced to it for the first time. It's like, I'm not even going to swat that fly. Then they're going to. I know what they're going to say. They're going to say she wouldn't even harm a fly. And then of course the score comes back as again he's moving a little bit. So when Perkins looks up with that glare that Freddie Highmore can mimic so well, just looks up with that glare, and then we have that great. That great face, the corpse of Norma Bates' face over Norman Bates' face, just that with the countless victims, the crime scene aftermath of the motel just being played at the very end. It's like, it all started with someone running away, with Marion's car running away, and then that's the thing that's getting pulled up there, and just And of course, again, if Norma does get reintroduced into society, Norma will be in full control, acting like Norman, like she does at the end of season 5. Bates Motel.
Right.
Like the close scene, she takes over for a bit. So it's kind of what they're hitting upon, like from the original movie, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Let's get to the favorite scenes then, Dragon. I will go ahead and go first. So I have 3 of them in mind, folks. I have number 1 happens early in the movie, and I still contend this is probably one of the more benign, but also one of the more suspenseful moments in the whole film, and that is shortly after Marion is questioned by a police officer for sleeping on the side of a road and kind of acting suspicious. She pulls into a used car lot to trade off cars, figuring that would be the best way to go about the situation. And what happens, Dragon, is just, again, I love the directing from Hitchcock here. The police officer sees her, pulls off to the side, and he doesn't just get in his car, Dragon. I love how he gets out of his car and just, leans on the car and waits and watches. And so the scene plays out just so tensely, where Marion is trying to make this deal with this guy. And, of course, we get the great line like, well, gee, this is the first time that the salesman has been hustled by the customer.
The salesman was great, by the way. I love that salesman.
Yeah. And, of course, God, I don't know, Dragon, just the way it's timed at the end, right, where the cop is, he gets in his car, he pulls up to the lot.
Oh, yeah, he's walking up as she leaves.
Yeah, and then Marion is just like, she is just like, I don't know, that's just, like, to me, like I said, even though, like, compared to the horror that we're going to get into with the Bates Motel stuff, that is the most suspenseful moment in the movie for me, because it's just like, you can kind of feel your heart jump to your throat in that moment. You're just like, oh God, it's going to get caught. It's going to get caught. It's going to get caught.
It's pretty safe to say. I mean, this has always been true, but especially nowadays, but just in general, just to keep it less political, though, it's always been true that there is always an intimidation factor with police, period. It's always the paranoia that you've done something wrong you don't even know about.
Sure, right.
So, and Hitchcock hit upon that because he also had a profound fear of policemen he had a trauma as a kid, where like his parents tried to steer him straight on something, and again, this is in the making of it. It was claimed that he was like locked in a cell. They doubt that, but the point is he was very intimidated by police at a young age. That's what fueled that scene. That's what fueled kind of our future Carlton Hughes police.
Right.
Patrolman.
Actually,
it's funny
Dragon 5. I'm a time traveler previously on Bates Motel, and so it was actually me and Psycho. Thank you very much.
God. It's so funny we have both of these scenes in Bates Motel in some capacity.
In some capacity, yes.
Capacity. Both elements of the scene. Anyway, go on. We keep going.
Okay. Yeah. So next moment would be since we already talked about the Psycho, the shower scene. Let's talk about the aftermath scene, Dragon.
Yes.
Honestly, rewatching this scene, Dragon, is you know what it reminds me of, and this might sound like a weird comparison at first, but it reminds me of those like really slow-paced and meticulous Mike scenes in Better Call Saul.
I see what you're talking. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like I'm not going to go as far as to say like, oh, clearly Vince Gilligan and company were inspired, but it's got that same sort of flavor, right? Where we're just so drawn into this guy doing.
We never did see Walt's mother. We knew she was around. I'm just saying, there could have been a thing where if you really needed to sell to Skyler that he was visiting his mother.
Oh God. But
Cranston playing his own mother. I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah. We just get this, and like you said, it's like the switch over. Like as soon as Marion dies, Norman takes over, and of course, at the time, we don't really know that Norman is the culprit yet. I mean, of course, due to pop culture, most people watching this probably know that. But regardless, even if you do know that, you're still invested in this guy, and you're still just like, oh my God, like he has to clean the stuff up. And, if you don't know the twist, then you're even more sympathetic towards him. You're just like.
You get the shower thing I was talking about, the curtain, carrying around the curtain.
Right. But you know what I mean? Like, like if you don't know the twist with the mother, then it plays out where this poor guy, especially with the exposition we got with Marion, about why he can't leave his mother. It's like, wow, not only is he dealing with an unruly mother who loves him on some level and it is overprotective of him because he loves him so much, but also a mother that is so fueled by jealousy that she is a murderous psychopath. And of course, Dragon, I got a picture like one of the things, again, this is kind of a practice that I have watching this movie, is just kind of like putting myself in the context of the time, like if I were to watch this movie when it first came out. And I imagine just the title Psycho, right? Like the title Psycho is so vague, it probably left a lot of people wondering what that meant and who the psycho in the movie actually was. You know what I mean?
Is it Marion because she's hearing voices and
everything?
She's
Right.
going psychotic. Is it the mother who around seems like he was babbling incoherent? Well, not incoherent. She's psychotic.
Yeah.
Or is it more Norman who can jump into these rants and these monologues here and there?
So I love that. That kind of play with the expectations. And like I said, I think the best way to view this movie is kind of in the time capsule format of just like pretending that this is the first time you're watching this in the time period that it came out in, and really kind of savoring the how fresh it must have felt. And of course, Dragon, speaking of said freshness, I think probably not the most suspenseful moment in film, but maybe the most expertly directed moment of the film is the car sinking, where that is the moment that so many people cite is like one of the first times in modern day filmmaking narrative where our focus clearly shifts. Like it's like a pinpoint, right? It's like an exact pinpoint where our motivations and our rooting interest in this movie shift to the bad guy at that point. And it is, and also, it's such a switch. Go ahead.
Yeah, we also get that great moment. He's eating the candy corn, and he's then. It seems like he's screwed for a moment when the trunk's sticking out, and she's looking around. So that's honestly, it's kind of a great, almost like an early fourth wall gag of like, oh man, I don't know what to do next.
That's what I'm talking about, Dragon. That moment right there is just like, okay, like we are on this guy's side now. We are vested in his success in this story.
Certainly.
Okay, and then finally, folks, let's talk about the Arbogast scene. Of course, this guy, after building up, his whole storyline is like, I got to get into that house. I got to get into that house. He finally decides to just break in, and it doesn't go well, Dragon. It doesn't go well at all.
No, it doesn't.
Basically, he gets as far as the top of the stairs before the second Hitchcock, music sting kicks in.
Unless,
yeah.
Unless he secretly wanted to die getting stabbed and falling downstairs. Unless he secretly wanted that. Things did not go well for him.
And as we were talking about with the cinematography, Dragon, I think the shot of Abergast falling down the stairs and the camera following him is the single most impressive shot of the movie.
It is pretty impressive, and just seeing like kind of that realistic, when you're kind of falling back. Less the shot of like him up in the camera, which looks good, but that shot of him coming down, just kind of that. I mean, honestly, I think the way we would do this now is you'd be like, he'd be kind of skipping down a few stairs instead of just kind of like, every step on the way back. I respect kind of the eeriness of that, though. It's almost like the film was reversed almost. It wasn't.
Right,
it's like,
yeah, sure.
He's just walking backwards and falling down. It's really eerie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, those are my moments, Dragon. What do you got?
Here's what I got. So, let me just I guess just going chronologically here.
Sure.
I guess it's somewhat of a twofer, but just in addition to this kind of the pleasantries of Norman just being so darn pleasant with offering the sandwich and mainly returning with the sandwich, because that's where we get the sympathy after he's been yelled at and he's kind of going out of his way to be nice to Mary and just kind of building that, but more so the we all go a little mad sometimes scene. That's always great. Number one. That's a scene where we get that turn with Norman. We see something's not quite right with Norman. That's where we get that bit. And this is the thing that this scene I bring up because this is a scene that I really think informs some of the finest stuff we get with Freddie Highmore in Bates Motel. It's always that kind of that Shakespearean quality we get from him. And honestly, and this is another. Okay, fine. Last reference to the Psycho Legacy is that they reveal. I'm not making them feel bad. Okay, I know. I wasn't trying. I was trying to pressure you to watching it before this.
I know. It's fine.
The Norman has a great nickname. Anthony Perkins has a great nickname for his portrayal of Norman Bates. His nickname is the Hamlet of Horror.
The Hamlet of Horror.
Which is really a cool nickname, you gotta admit.
Yeah, it is. It is.
He's the conflicted lad. That's his legacy.
Right.
But in all seriousness, though, again, that's what this scene is, and that's kind of what Highmore kind of does when in Bates, he always captures this scene to an extent. Like when Norman gets like the whole, he kind of turns on a dime, saying, I don't think you're a nice girl. Like nice girls don't do this. He's just going into a rant.
Sure.
The way Norman Bates fires into a rant, or he gets all Shakespearean, talking about the chord and everything. It's all derivative of this scene. It's all this scene that Perkins has given us here. The whole, people always mean well.
Mm-hmm. Right,
It's like Norman's all friendly with it at that point. It's just, you mean an institution? He really tenses up, and he's getting into there's so many levels to this. Psychologically, it's hitting upon a really sensitive subject for him. You got to imagine in the back of his mind, he's thinking, an institution like I've considered either putting myself or my mother into back in the day when she was getting really out of hand.
Or mother considered putting him into back in the day. Exactly.
Again, it's wonderfully unclear.
Right.
And then as the scene goes on, then it's really offended by it, because you got to wonder how much of that is his mother coming out being defensive of himself, or how much of that is just like oh yes, right. People always mean well, but they click their, and this is the bit I'm talking. This is the Heimel bit I'm talking. They click their thick tongues and suggest so very delicately.
Right.
Like that's the bit that's what I'm loving about this scene. Is why it can take away. This is when I kind of look to what Perkins did so wonderfully in this role. Just he could turn on a dime like that, and it would just be so intimidating. But then he amps down, and he goes and he raises the so quotable, awesome question. Like we all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
Sure.
Just put that on a poster, man.
That's like a bumper sticker quote.
It's such a well delivered line. You can feel the iconography coming off of that line. We all go a little mad sometimes, which is an inhalable truth among people. We all go a little mad. In his case, a little crazy mad. Which again, we always kind of have that question: what if we really went off the deep end?
Right.
And then, of course, having you just being that question posed not only to Marion but to the audience to an extent. Just such a well-delivered scene, and the energy that Perkins brings in that scene is unparalleled. So, following that, I guess, and bear in mind, I can't for me, if I had just picked only one, it would be the ending. But we already talked about that. So this.
Sure, sure.
Let's see. So that's going chronologically here. So I'll make sure I get it. I guess. Okay. I guess. Let's talk about Arbogast. Like, so the Arbogast scene. So, and this scene again was something else. Oddly enough, I'm just kind of realizing some of these scenes are really Bates Motel derivative, but it's just this scene was so well. There was a bit in the scene so well adapted in Bates Motel. Basically, when Arbogast is checking the registry, and he's questioning Norman, and this scene, of course, this is the scene that Perkins directed.
I'm still kind of bitter that nobody questioned David Davidson when all out of all the times that people look through that registry in season 5.
You're right. But I'm like, I'm gonna wait. Seriously, I'm gonna wait till the DVD. I think that might be like a deleted scene somewhere. It sounds like it might be. But anyway, so this scene essentially, it's Arbogast questioning Norman. He's checking the guest registry, and this is the scene that Perkins staged. So like Hitchcock, he basically kept going out for Hitchcock. He said, "Hey, listen, I have a way of staging this. I have the way Marty and I have been going over the scene, but I think you should direct it a little differently." And Hitchcock was very receptive. Like, okay, he just placated him. I'm sure it'll be fine. Whatever we do, it's gonna be fine. He says, "No, seriously, we have some really cool ideas." And he watched it. He's really impressed. And that attached to the scene, you get like these great shots. It's shot so wonderfully up close. We have he focusing on the faces, and we have this great bit where while he's off screen searching through the book, because we know what that looks like. We need to see that the whole time. We have Norman just like arching over, and we know he's so nervous because we know our character is lying in this scene. He's arching over, he's like all spindly, and the next his the head turn is what Highmore does in season 5. We do the rich thing there, and he was eating the candy corn. And it's so, and he's catching him in a lie in this part. Maybe the audience for Norman, like our hearts are kind of stopped from like, oh boy, nice stuttering. It's like, oh boy, is he gonna be able to pull it off? And he's so charming, he kind of gets away with it.
Right.
Before the mother enters again, mother undercutting him as always.
Of course, yeah.
Let's see. So. So next, I guess the third scene followed by a very brief bit. Main scene here, the Chambers visit. I love the Chambers visit. We talked about it a little bit, so I'll go briefly on this. I love the visit, the first scene with Sheriff Chambers and the wife, especially the wife. I think the wife's great in this scene because
the wife is very underrated in this movie. Yeah, I agree with you.
She gets my favorite bit in the scene. That's why I bring her up. So there are two bits in the scene. Tiki already mentioned one of them. So basically, these two awesome bits in the scene. Basically, this is an exposition dump. But this is a character exposition. This is very pivotal to the plot. This is where they're mentioning, it's showcasing that Norman Bates is very well liked in the town. Like, oh no, like us, the audience, rooting for Norman's like, yeah, we're throwing off suspicion. We're all good here. We're all
right.
But we get this really eerie bit that is making the kind of Shyamalanian twist, as Diggy's brought up. It's kind of this, the sheriff eerily bring up, Norma Bates has been dead for 10 years.
Oh yeah.
She's been buried in like green something cemetery for 10 years. And then basically the story, the background. This informed Teague and I kind of going into Bates and because we knew kind of the story, and we're clued into how Norma might die based on this scene. And again, they adapted it to an extent. There was a poisoning. That's what did her in, and Romero was there. Right,
and Romero was kind of a catalyst of it as well.
Exactly. So. Basically, we get an insight to what killed Norma, and this is something that they do kind of play with in the sequels by Norman poisoning, kind of the mother. The fact that the wife gives us the great exposition dump that after the sheriff says the strychnine poisoning, she poisoned the iced tea, she poisoned her boyfriend after finding he was having an affair, and poisoning herself, and then the bit that I think sells it, and this is the bit that just sells it perfectly, is when the missus, when Miss Chambers, she says, and Norman found them in bed. And again, just that's the thing that gives them the psychotic break, and what's what we find out later on, paired with this scene, just knowing kind of like, okay, we know the facts, and now we can factor in, based on that good exposition dump. We now know, so in doing that, Norman's Norman's motivation, like that moment, we had a vivid picture painted of. Okay, so the poison they have, and Norman was there finding him in bed. Finding them in bed, like right after the moment, it probably dawned on him, like, oh my god, I killed my mother. which of course we do get to see kind of artfully kind of adapted in Bates Motel to an extent. Just the death in bed sort of thing. Again, Norman and Nora were going to die in bed, just kind of like
right.
There. But I'm saying again, it's a good scene. Build some intrigue, build some great intrigue, and real briefly, just I love this. The way this shot is just one single shot. To be honest, it's Norman hearing Sam Loomis looking around, and he's in the black turtleneck. He's in the classic kind of black.
I'm glad you're bringing this up. Actually, this is another moment I kind of wanted to bring up. So go ahead. Yeah.
If not a turtleneck, he was wearing the black sweater over the white. He was wearing the black, and it was a beautiful black and white shot. And what we have here is Sam's looking around for Arbogast to see if he's around, and we get this wonderful kind of pan. It's like going almost like a 360-degree almost. It's like we're going around basically this shot where Norman overhears him like calling for Arbogast. And it's such an intimidating shot of Norman. Just like he's standing in front, presumably Arbogast's car is sinking in or something. He's in front of the sinkhole.
Right.
Where he's gotten rid of more evidence of Arbogast, whatever. I think it's the car too. I think he dumped the car. But then just like Arbogast, and he's like, da-da. We have that. We're panning closer and closer to Norman as he's turning. It's such a great kind of film shot of just Norman over that iconic spot.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into the legacy of Psycho, Dragon.
Certainly. So.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let's see. So obviously, this is Hitchcock's most famous film. There's a legacy right off the bat. So that's a huge takeaway. When you think Hitchcock, you think Psycho.
Which is huge because, like we said, at the time, like a lot of people were thinking his career was winding down.
Yeah. This was kind of the rebirth of Hitchcock in a way. Deep into his career.
I just think this movie changed everything when it came to modern horror. Like we would not have any sort of staying power in the horror genre today without this movie. Of course,
again, Jaws and Silence of the Lambs are not horror movies; they're suspense films based on Psycho.
Right. I would actually say you could say the same thing about the original Halloween. The original Halloween is much more suspense than it is slasher. It has slasher elements to it, but it still kind of builds upon like the atmosphere and the psychological elements of Psycho.
And Chandler's daughter.
Yeah. And of course, Dragon, like it broke new ground when it comes to depicting violence on screen and whatnot.
Being inventive with it, not especially for PG-13 films, because they have to find a way to skirt around the violence. So they look to the intriguing ways of getting around it, like Psycho did. I would assume.
Sure. And and also just of course the twist endings, killing off the protagonist halfway through. Just all of that is just like big hallmarks of blockbuster filmmaking that are present even today. I mean, like the killing off protagonists halfway through, that doesn't happen very often. But when it does happen, I mean, there's only one source you can point to. Is like, oh, that must be a Psycho. You know what I mean?
For a recent example, if the recent Shyamalan film doesn't prove it enough, the split personality as a concept and device, of course.
Of course, sure.
And most recently with Split, just being like a prominent example.
I mean, Split is kind of like the Looney Tunes version of like the split personality.
Well, true. I mean, like for me, I don't think you have. Honestly, I don't think you have a Two-Face in the Batman animated series the way you have it without kind of Psycho. And again, it wasn't deliberately the same as Psycho, but I'm just saying you don't have like a split personality as like a device you can go to without.
You certainly don't have Shyamalan's career without this movie. Absolutely not. Shyamalan absolutely built his entire career out of the foundation of this movie, I think.
Now, I guess looking into some properties based on Psychos, let's start with. We have the Universal Tram Tour, which is of course made famous now. Where
yes,
it's been pretty funny. Where he's, he killed the actor portraying Norman in the Tram Tour.
And Dragon, I have experienced this, and it is pretty fun. Basically what you see is
the actual set of Psycho.
Yeah, you see it's the actual set of Psycho with the hotel, with the house in the distance. The house is like up on the hill, right? And so essentially what happens is, I mean, like, this is how I remember it. So they could have changed it over time, maybe like plussed it up a little. But how I remember it is you pull up and it's very eerie, very ominous. The guide is kind of just talking about how like, man, this looks like a really kind of creepy, out of the way establishment. And then the guide points to this silhouette in the window of the house, right? And then that's kind of where our attention is drawn, is the silhouette in the window. But then Norman Bates comes out of the lobby of the hotel with a knife and kind of chases the tram off. So it's this great sort of like sleight of hand magic trick, right? Where you're focused on one thing and then Norman Bates himself comes running out.
There's only one thing I would add to that, T. I would add just a little sound effect to that. I would just add like you'd hear from the window, Norman! It's the only thing I'd add to that. Just so, of course, speaking of just kind of the stuff that has come after Psycho, so just to dwell on for a moment again, of course there were sequels made.
Which we might cover in the future, folks.
At the very least, the fourth one. At the very least. The fourth one highly informs.
I think Psycho 2 is also pretty good.
It is. I'm just saying 4 is like that's the Henry Thomas. It's the Flash. That's where you get all the normal live stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, Olivia Hussey. She was the original Vera Farmiga at that time. So with the sequels, just kind of the broad spectrum is kind of the general kind of consensus kind of boiled down. So of course 2 is a very intriguing aftermath of years have passed. And it takes place in real time to address the age difference in Norman Bates, and he's actually in that time he's been released, and Lila has issue with this, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Vera Miles returning to the role, so again she's kind of our antagonist of the film.
Okay.
3 is Norman just kind of Norman running the motel again, and just let's say we have Perkins directed that one. It's really well directed. It's,
nice.
Oh yeah, he's very involved in all these movies that have come afterwards.
It sounds kind of like Freddie Highmore's role in Bates Motel in a way.
I know, it's interesting. And again, 3 is just basically more it's kind of shenanigans coming to the Bates Motel and him dealing with it. But Norman again, you're rooting for him even though he's killing people in 3.
Right.
And 4, honestly, 4 is the most interesting to me because that's
it's got
honestly
all the backstory stuff.
It has the backstory. We've seen flashback. Basically, it has an awesome premise. If you ask me, it's kind of a silly premise, but it's an awesome one. CCH Pounder has a radio show, and essentially Norman's calling in under an assumed alias, and he is kind of sharing his past stories, and that's where we get the flashbacks from. And the idea is like they realize, oh my God, it's Norman Bates. He's basically contemplating doing something horrible, and they're trying to talk him out of it on air.
Oh God!
and it's awesome. Again, we get flashbacks to kind of like him. I forget if he narrates through. I would assume by the end of the beginning of the scene, so it'll be him narrating through. So I forget if it's all throughout. But we have like Henry Thomas. The creepiest element I remember. I got to rewatch it. Bear in mind, but the creepiest element I remember is the stuff when Norman's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's the eeriest stuff, and that movie gets really screwed up and twisted when you see the take they had on Norma before we had like all the sweet sunshine smiles. They played Norma bipolar in the
oh boy, ooh.
In there. So basically, it's like she turns on a dime and it's terrifying.
Right.
Anyway, and also there was a very forgettable Bates Motel series.
That show. No, come on.
No, I'm serious. There was a TV movie about Bates Motel.
Oh, okay, right.
There was a TV.
Sarcastic.
No, there was a Bates. There was honestly. I mean, it seems like a horrible idea. I haven't watched it. It seems like a horrible idea. Just there was a TV movie called Bates Motel. That's very forgettable. So that barely even counts. Right. So talking about the thing that actually counts, though.
And then of course there's the Bates Motel that we actually like.
Yes.
And that Bates Motel Dragon. Oh my God! Like I think we could do another podcast, the podcast we were planning on doing with this one, just comparing and contrasting Bates Motel to Psycho. I feel like there's still leverage left there because, oh my God, just Bates Motel is just such a beautiful mirror image of the things that work so well in Psycho stretched out to series form. You know what I mean? It's like all throughout that whole series, we're getting these little touches and nods to the directorial choices and elements that made the first film so captivating.
Exactly. It's a wonderful tribute that gives new life to a classic with a different story that fuels the film but ends differently. And without getting into too much of the specifics of the ending, I'm just saying that it tells a story that we didn't see, and we appreciate Norman's plight even more, seeing the series. Even though, again, even if it doesn't line up with the movie, exactly, just knowing kind of basically what if we kind of reverse Marion and Norman almost is that we follow Norman's our main character from the very start, and we get to know him, we get to know the story behind what drives him to the split personality, what builds that, what kind of what motivates the boy to dig up his mother eventually. We see that story unfold. It's great. And something in my research for Psycho, actually, this is gonna blow your mind. I found out some stuff here. So I don't know if it's just coincidental, but they pulled some stuff seemingly from the book, from the Robert Bloch book, and put it in Bates Motel.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
I was looking at some of the stuff Joe Stefano he had adapted or changed from the book, and a lot of the stuff that's in the book, a couple elements from the book. I shouldn't say that it's a whole lot of things, but a few things from the book that were not in the movie made into Bates Motel.
Cool.
Two two things to point out is the blackout. The blackouts are from the book.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
There is an idea that Norman,
and of course, the blackout thing is one of the pivotal parts of the Bates Motel series that wasn't really brought up in the movie.
Exactly. So again, it's kind of hard to tell if that's just coincidence, like he would have to black out to have these things happen, or if it was like
right, yeah.
So it's curious now. I'm saying these are two important events in Bates Motel that I thought I'd mention. So one's the blackouts, which in the book emanated from Norman had a drinking problem in the book. So he would drink, and when he drank, he would black out. And he would have conversations with Mother.
Which again, Bates Motel, like it emulates both the blackouts and kind of like alcohol feeling that in certain scenes.
Yeah. Essentially, in the books, Norman, again, aside from not being kind of the likable kind of Anthony Perkins or Freddie Highmore type, he was just going to be kind of he was going to have a lot of problems. I'm just saying the drinking thing that led to the blackouts was important. Other thing, instead of Marion, ripping up the paper, putting in the toilet, there was an earring found, and that earring found, of course, was a big point of discovery in Bates Motel. We had Emma's mom.
Right.
Emma's mom earring was found. That, of course, was a big thing for doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out, and of course, the book itself as a concept was used by Chick Hogan. And,
of course.
I'm saying I just want to point out a few things, a few deep pulls that despite the fact that Psycho the movie has a legacy, the book also has somewhat of a legacy in Bates Motel as well.
Certainly. Okay. That's about it. Unless you have anything else about the legacy.
I guess just one more thing on Bates Motel, of course, because the Vera Farmiga and Freyheim were kind of like they've redefined the rules and kind of made it their own.
Absolutely, and I think in general, I very much appreciate that Bates Motel has brought the original to a new generation of people, and I feel like a lot of people are discovering Psycho in the wake of Bates Motel and really.
Yep. Hello. Yes, I agree with Tiki there. It is bringing to kind of a new generation of people, because I remember I would talk to people about Bates Motel, a few people I would watch the series with, not with. I mean, we basically kind of like water cooler talks. Like, oh, did you see what happened on Bates Motel? Oh my God, that sort of stuff. And when I talked to them, at some points, there's this one person I would talk to, and they have not seen the movie. I would hope they've watched it afterwards now, but I don't know, maybe the black and white might turn them off to it. I hope not, because the fact there are people out there who have not seen the movie, and I would recommend to these people that, hey, oh my gosh, if you love the series, you got to see what the movie. They share a lot in common. Believe me, you'd like it. So, it is an amazing thing that what Bates Motel is doing. And Tegan and I, we can go on and on and on about just kind of the beauty and the majesty of Bates Motel and how they have redefined it. And they've just kind of they've kept it going for a new generation. Again, I'm retreading what we've been saying, but it is really true. And I encourage anyone who hasn't for some reason checked it out. Check it out. I mean, assume the 5th season is going to be on Netflix, I'm sure, and then they'll have all 5 on there. Or if not, get the DVDs. It's worth it. Just an excellent series. We can go on forever about it. It subverts things much like the original Psycho does. So I guess speaking of which, I guess getting into some final thoughts. I'm just going to round out some stuff here. So I guess essentially, if I were to boil down what Psycho is, just kind of the impact of Psycho, again, it's the original Jaws. That's what it is. It's classic cinema. It's the best psychological thriller. At the very least, we don't have the psychological thrillers we have now without it. It's not a psychological thriller because it's super in depth, but it's a thriller. It's thrilling because it's so well executed and represented by the actors. That's what makes it possibly the best psychological thriller. Because it's so well done. It's it's it, it's like an average film. In the beginning of it's like an average film from the 60s that takes turns no one expected at the time, and still on the whole holds up amazing. Of course, you have a few things like 40,000 has to be 400,000, maybe the marriage thing isn't a big deal. Of course, you have minor things here and there, but on the whole, again, it holds up as a great movie you could watch and rewatch and show to people and say, "Oh my God, you got to watch this movie. It's amazing." I mean, Hitchcock made a film with all of his heart and soul, despite everyone. He got married at the time. Everyone's telling him, this is you're just making a B movie. This is a mistake. Why are you out of your gourd? Why are you making this movie? He made a movie by doing, again, as I always say with Hitchcock, he kind of had the Orson Welles approach. He kind of did a movie by doing the opposite of everything that every filmmaker did at the time. He made the opposite of every choice, and he made all of those choices work. Psycho, as in any of Hitchcock's films, are an example of that, especially Psycho. He made it with that mentality. Psycho is, at its core, to be honest with you, just kind of looking at it, kind of relating it back to the Mother's Day side of things here. And also the Bates Motel, as we've always said with Bates Motel, it's kind of a romanticized tragedy. Love being kind of a big crux. It's a love story. Psycho itself, just reevaluating it here, is also a love story. It's a love story, but a dark one that that makes us question, what love. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Basically, it kind of makes us question what love can drive us to, or what choices it could what choices it could force us into. Oh,
Whoa, was I in here the whole time?
Well, now you're back now.
Yeah, I know, but like when I left, was my avatar still in here?
Technically.
Oh wow, that's weird. Sorry about that. My computer just randomly decided to restart itself for no reason.
Let me finish my final thoughts here then.
Okay, sure, by all means.
So that's what I was kind of doing, entertaining the folks, just going through my final
figured,
thoughts.
yes, thank you, Dragon. You're the consummate professional in that regard.
So let me pick up where the thought I was going on here. Basically, I'm just to summarize the point I was making right when it came back. Is that Psycho, kind of like Bates Motel, is a love story. It's a love story, but it's a dark one that makes us question, what love can drive us to. What love kind of stuff love can drive us to, or changes us into, as being Norman as the example there. It can be as scary or dark as what Norman becomes out of the sense of love, love for a mother, or love in any other senses we kind of indicate in Bates Motel. Loving someone to such an excess, as scary or dark as it can be. It's something to marvel at. That a man could loved his mother quite literally to death, and even after death, and that to me is not a forgettable horror movie at all. It's not a forgettable horror movie. It's so, what could be a forgettable horror movie, so well executed. It's a film that's what every film school textbook. It's in every film school textbook under the sun, saying what everyone was fearing was going to be a very forgettable horror movie turned out to be the most recognizable horror film in period.
Yeah. Yeah, folks, thanks for joining us on our Bates Motel retrospective. I guess just to round out my final thoughts, it's crazy with and not just Bates Motel, of course, Psycho as well. Psycho being the main. Don't want to. Sorry, that was a flub. I'm, don't want to take attention away from Psycho here, but Psycho is just such a lasting legacy of a film. Dragon, like you said, it's taught in every film school. People like who have never seen a black and white movie in their lives still know like every shot of the shower scene. Just even if they've never seen the shower scene, they still somehow subconsciously know every shot of it. like I said, it broke new ground in terms of showing what can be done with violence and doing it in a tasteful way. It also just led the way and paved the way for just twisting and turning narratives for suspense films and horror films going forward. And it is just straight up a masterpiece that can never be topped. All right. And Dragon, I think after all is said and done, the only thing to do is to maybe just sit and wait and hope that one day Carrie Aaron and Carlton Cuse will deliver a Bates Motel sequel somehow, even though Norman's dead. Spoiler alert. And you know what I say to that, Dragon?
What do you say to that?
I say, well, we're just going to have to sit here then. Have a good night, folks. Happy Mother's Day.